Hey, welcome everybody. Hope you're doing well. I gotta get this QR code out of the way. It's like in the wrong corner here. Um, but welcome to our 365 deep dive. We're kind of a hot mess this month. Daryl was letting us know that it was time to start. We were sitting here just chatting about gear and everything like that. So I was telling Andy that I might spend some money on some road equipment because it's in clearance at Target. So if anybody's looking for microphones, check out your local Target in the U.S. How's it going, Andy?
Doing well, man. Doing well. Flying by the seat of my
Good.
pants, but doing well.
Yeah, yeah,
Little cold, but we'll get through that.
yeah. There's and Daryl, you talking about the 8-bit music. We also have new font down on the bottom of the thing. I can't get my hands low enough. But there's new fonts in Restream now. So I was able to pick kind of a more, fun like it looks like that, old dot matrix printer paper, stuff. So but yeah, we're excited to talk about Wave 2. And over the past week, I've been in Orlando. I just got back from attending my firm's US partner meeting. So like all of the US partners in town, it was like 3,300 or something people in a convention center. And I got to run a booth there for the past 4 days talking about Copilot. So it already feels a little bit like old hat. We're going to be showing off a lot of what is available now in Wave 2 and talking a little bit about what's still to come. We've had our hands on it for a few weeks, and I was demoing it all week long. I felt like, Andy, I was like building agents and I was doing narrative builder and showing off a lot of the cool stuff. So I'm excited to talk about it with this crowd
I
as
am
well.
looking forward to testing a lot of this stuff out live with no safety net, as we typically do. To quote Mr. Mark Cashman, that that
Yeah.
that comment's just been stuck in my head since he said that, and so I'm looking forward to kind of walking that tightrope with it and seeing what we can do with it and kind of pushing it a little bit. But as always, questions and comments are going to help us drive along the presentation. And if you got something you want to see or something you want us to try or get some feedback, let us know through the various chats. We're live on LinkedIn, we're live on YouTube,
Hmm.
and we're live in
Yeah.
multiple places.
Yeah, I'm curious, at the beginning of this thing and then at the end, if you put in the comments, what is the thing that you're most excited about for Wave 2? I'm bouncing between three different things, so I'll be curious to see how many people resonate with one of those three things. I haven't been able to like actually pick a favorite because there's a couple of huge standouts, but we've got a few slides today just to kind of keep us grounded. We've developed these slides and presented them in a few places, and we thought maybe that would keep us like on track a little bit better this time. And not that we have a problem with that at all, but but we've got 8 different areas that we want to cover. Some of them are certainly, bigger and more in depth than others. Some of them are kind of a little bit more theoretical, or they haven't fully hit our sandbox environment yet. But we've got some fun stuff to talk about. And I think a lot of it, the kind of center of gravity, the center of the Copilot universe still kind of remains to be that core chat experience. And one of the changes in Wave 2 is a bit of a throwback. We're back to calling Copilot chat BizChat. So if you hear the term BizChat, this is kind of it's what it was called like a year and a half ago at the very beginning in the early access program. So that's what's stuck in my head. And I'm kind of glad to see it come back because that's what I called it like all along. But if you're familiar with that kind of chat GPT type of experience, the kind of open-ended conversation, you got your chats that you can go back and forth, the history along the side, that whole thing now is called BizChat. And I think Andy has the best demo for the new Pages functionality, but I've started to see it roll out a little bit, and then like a couple days later, it disappeared, and then now it seems to have stuck. I don't have it in my home environment because we actually are still going through like through some like risk assessment and stuff like that. But I think Andy, you've turned it on in your whole what
Yeah.
3 or 4 tenants that you're in, right?
Yeah, I've been able to leverage it in most of the tenants that I work in.
Have you gotten a lot of feedback on it yet, or are people kind of still kicking the tires?
Uh, the feedback that we've gotten has been really positive. The people that have used it really, really like it. As always, whenever Microsoft releases a feature, especially something like this, people want a little bit more.
Hmm.
It's just, as Microsoft would say, we're just getting started. And I feel like they're just getting started. And I think this one's going to start to address a big need that we've had with Copilot for a while, which is collaboration of Copilot content and prompts. We've done
Hmm.
a show about prompt libraries and our different methods. And the one that I lean on is Loop. And so Pages fits right into that story and kind of starts us down that path, taking content generated by
Hmm.
Copilot and turning that into something collaborative that somebody on the other side can start to work with. And so that we're starting to address a big need. But the people that have worked with it in my environment have been really excited about it and really want to push it in order to do more.
So if you're not familiar with Copilot Pages, you're going to see this in that chat experience. So whether you go to copilot.microsoft.com or you access like the full Copilot app inside of Microsoft Teams or the full Copilot app inside of Outlook on the web, when you're in that entire chat experience, the full screen version, when you chat with Copilot, now you're going to see this button that you can see on my screen that says edit in pages. You're going to see that at the bottom of your replies, and those responses, you're essentially sending it over to a page that is powered by Loop, and it kind of gives you like this split screen environment. And I think if we want to switch over and actually show this off, I think you've got some scenarios with coffee shop, back to Jolly Roger Java, that we could show, or I can certainly show it as well if we want to. But it's essentially like taking the response that you've got and putting it in a place that doesn't just scroll up in the chat and go away eventually, so that you can like work with it, you can expand on the idea, things like that. So you want me to flip over to kind of show that live, or you want to show it, Andy? Are you there? Oh, you're muted, Andy. I see a little X on your on your microphone. There we
Good,
go.
because you didn't hear the stream restarting in another window over there as I'm monitoring all the
Did
different
you
feeds coming
you
in.
had some double speak going on?
Oh man. So yeah, if you want to bring up my screen, I'll start the
Okay, man.
demo on this one.
Sure, yeah, sounds good.
All right. So we're gonna talk about pages, but there's I think a couple of steps we need to address as we're getting up to pages. And these weren't necessarily part of the wave two announcements, but they're gonna
Mhm,
have kind of an impact on that. And it's dealing with Copilot, Copilot Chat, BizChat, and enterprise data protection. So as you start to go in, like we've been directing people to go to copilot.microsoft.com. We've been directing people to go to microsoft.com/copilot. And even like there was bing.com/chat. And that would bring you into a Copilot experience that would start you down the journey into the virtual chat experience. I know, John,
mhm.
you've been referencing it as BizChat. I've often called it Copilot Chat, and that's kind
Yeah.
of what it's been stuck in my head like ever since the beginning. But there's two experiences there when you have an enterprise license. You've got that web toggle, and then you got the work toggle up at the top. And they did update this to go from commercial data protection to enterprise data protection. And so when people are using previous bookmarks, copilot.microsoft.com, it's redirecting to Microsoft 365 Home, and then we can toggle into Copilot, and we can start that journey either through the web or through the work. And
Mhm,
so, as we're getting ready to talk about Loop, I thought it was kind of important to call that out. That entry that we've had before has changed a little bit. And if you saw some previous videos that we did, one of the things that I thought was really cool with the previous web experience that we have is that after you have a conversation, there would be like an export option. So, like, we could go and ask it to I'll just run this prompt here, this
Mhm.
predefined one. So it'll start the conversation and it'll give me the response or the output. And previously, there was this really cool little feature that showed up down in this area where you could export to a Word document, to a PDF, or like a text file. And if you were logged in with an enterprise account, it was actually opening up a blank Word document, for instance, if you exported to Word, and it was storing that in your OneDrive. And that was a cool way to take this conversation from like a single click and get it into a document and then start collaborating on it. But with some of the updates that Microsoft made over the past few months, that's actually changed. There's no export button here on the web content anymore. I would have to go and use like the copy feature and then do a copy paste and take that over and manually start like a new document. But
Mhm.
in addition to that change with the enterprise data agreement, we now have the ability to go back and revisit our web conversations. And I think that's really nice. That's actually, I think, a great update because previously, once you exited the web conversation, you couldn't get back to it. Like it was gone forever. But with that
Mhm.
enterprise data protection in place, now if I have a web only, training only conversation, I can actually get back to that, which is, I think a really, really nice feature. So, like, here's an agenda that I mocked up for Jolly Roger Java marketing campaign kickoff. And so, um, just wanted to kind of step and build up into it. So those are a couple of subtle changes. We'll talk more about the enterprise data protection and some of the other changes that are there. But I'm going to switch over now to the work toggle. So I'm in the work toggle and I still have my previous chats and my previous history. It does have enterprise data protection. And I'm going to run basically the same prompt that I just had a second ago. And we'll go ahead and send that in. So it's creating an agenda. Now, this one's toggled to work. So it's going to include the Microsoft Cloud, Teams, SharePoint, OneDrive, Outlook, Exchange, and content from there. If I want it to, it can extend though, and it can pull in web results if we toggle that on. Mine's toggled on, so it will include web results in addition to the training data. But now, whenever I go and prompt against it, if we look down here, we've got the new edit and pages option. So this is going to allow me to take the output of this and with one click, opens up a loop page on the side, drops in the content of that conversation, and now I've got um, either a loop component
Mhm.
or a loop page that I can share and collaborate with other people in other locations. And that's a big change, but it's
Yeah,
also welcome.
I see that as like a big upgrade from what we had before where like you said you export it as a Word document and like yeah, it's stored it in your OneDrive and that's collaborative, but a Word document it's funny saying this, when in 2024, but like it feels kind of static and old school, right? And by doing a loop powered experience now with with this, it feels more modern because you can always use that slash command in the page on the right hand side, and you can get more than just like a bullet or a numbered list or something that's text based. You can insert images now, you can insert, tables and have like the table calculations, the calculated columns, insert task lists. You can really kind of build like a collaborative environment out of this page than what you were used to with a Word document where you were kind of put into a box with a Word document. And this is a little bit more modern, a little bit more flexible. And since the Wave 2 announcement and the SharePoint or Copilot Pages announcement, we've also seen Canvas come for Chat GPT. And it feels a little bit like a similar experience, right? Where you're kind of getting into a split screen area. You've got a canvas type thing where you're, using Markdown and you're adding different text elements and stuff. But what's nice about the Microsoft story there is that it's in that Microsoft ecosystem. So whenever you like add a task list and you assign something to somebody, it's going to go in the ecosystem, assign it to them in Microsoft To Do. They'll get reminders about it, that type of stuff. That when you're looking at some of these other products like these canvases that are coming out, they're not connected to an ecosystem like you have with the Microsoft environment. So I'm glad that they went with the loop idea, not just because I'm kind of like a big nerd for Microsoft Loop, but I feel like it gives us hooks into doing more with what's happening on the page, you know?
Yeah, absolutely. I love that it ties it into modern work, into the
Hmm.
services that you mentioned, being able to assign a task in Planner without having to like leave where I'm at. I like the simplicity of the workspace though. I think that's just a really clever way to do it. It's side by side. It does remind me a little bit of the Canvas feature that I think ChatGPT was trying to roll out.
Hmm.
But this one, because it's tied into Loop, provides much more flexibility to roll it into other workloads and work streams. So I definitely agree with you on a number of the points that you made there. Um,
So one question I've gotten a lot or has come up a lot in pages is it created this asset, this page. You can share it with somebody, you can create a component. Where is that page physically stored? Do you want to address that?
yeah, so if we look in the upper corner up here, there's a little icon that shows up. It's a pages icon, and it's actually a clickable option. So I'm going to go ahead and click on that. It's
Hmm.
going to take me to pages. So it's going to open up, and it might not work in our. We tested this the other day, and it wasn't working in our demo environment. I'm going to try one more time.
Hmm.
It's
And I'm going to get a link
actually,
to this as well.
yeah, it's still giving me the same error in our demo environment that it gave me the other day, but it's actually supposed to be opening up inside of Loop. So
Hmm.
there's a let's see. Yeah, it could just be the limitations of the demo environment. Nothing like a
Yeah.
demo that goes off the rails early on, but it's supposed to open up pages inside of Loop, and what you're going to see is a list of like your Loop or your conversation based pages off to the side. We'll see if we can get it to actually work while we're here in the demo. I have it in one of my production environments, and it does work like it's advertised and it's supposed to, and it's really clever. Because the cool thing is, once that page, that uh, loop conversation opens up, you're going to be able to then append it and actually add it to an existing workspace if you want,
Hmm.
whether it's one that you own or one that you've been invited to. You're going to be able to quickly get back to it later on, but it's going to give you more of a personal set of pages to actually work with. And initially, they're not connected to anything other than the conversation that you have here, and that you can surface them through Loop, but you would be able to add them to existing workspaces that you have inside of Loop. And my understanding is that ties more into the personal experience in the Microsoft Cloud, which would be very similar to like things that are stored in my OneDrive.
Hmm.
It's going to be with me versus like maybe something associated with a SharePoint site.
Yeah,
But
it's been a little bit hit or miss for me how you like navigate that. What we should be seeing is we should see it in that recents area because it's just a page that you recently opened inside of Loop. But yeah, I've seen it kind of hit or miss. From a technical standpoint, I want to point everybody to this page that I'm going to drop the link in the chat. This is an explanation of Copilot pages for IT admins. So this is like what it means from like a management perspective. And essentially they address this with like what happens when you create a Copilot page. First, what gets created is a dot loop file. So it's a whatever dot loop file, which means you have all of the same controls that you have with Microsoft 365 as far as like retention and stuff like that that you have with like documents and PowerPoints and Excel spreadsheets, stuff like that. But then where is that stored? I thought this was an interesting change than it was an interesting surprise because I expected something else. What I expected to happen was I was predicting that it was like going to be a folder in OneDrive that was called like Copilot Pages. Because when you create an idea, it puts that in your OneDrive, right? When you create a meeting note. It gets put, in your OneDrive or whatever. And we saw also the other day that whenever you attach a file in a Copilot chat, when you upload a file, it puts it into a folder called Copilot Chat Files. So I was expecting to see something called like Copilot Pages and the loop files would be in there. That is not what's happening. So if you go look in your OneDrive, you're not going to find that physical file for that page. Instead, they get put into a SharePoint embedded container. So as your users start using Copilot Pages, the first time it's going to create a SharePoint embedded container, and it's going to create that per user. So every user is going to get one of these containers. That's where their created pages will go. And then they can share, they can get back to it through like the recents items. It's all kind of in that loop app experience. But physically, where they're stored is SharePoint embedded. And what that means is that it doesn't count against that user's 1 terabyte or 5 terabytes or whatever you set their OneDrive to. Instead, it's part of the tenant's SharePoint quota. So it's cumulative for all of your SharePoint environment. It's just a container for each individual person. So I don't know how I feel about this as far as like if it's a good thing or a bad thing. I just think it's something that admins should know is that it's going to get created over here. So don't go hunting for it in your file structure. Go use the Loop app or get back to it through the Copilot chats. One thing that you showed on here, I don't know if I even have. I was like doing like cat pictures or something like that. Yeah, like cat names. And I had like the
Actually,
pages.
I have a version of it that I can show on the screen
Okay.
that's actually
That's
working.
inside of Loop.
Yep,
Okay.
that's showing the actual experience. So I do have a version of it if you wanna bring me
Okay.
back up
Because
on
I
the
was going to
screen.
show something that's like one of my favorite features is that if you've got it open in Loop, you can click the little page with a plus sign to add it to a workspace. And in my opinion, that's where if you're going to do something with a Loop page that's more than just a one-off ideating session, if you're going to go like really do something with it for like a project or something, go get it over to a workspace is kind of my advice because that will put the page over in that container, which means it will get like all the sharing permissions that are in the container it's housed
Yep.
within. I think that's a better long-term storage solution.
So this is what you're describing. This is actually it.
Mhm,
This is in one of my environments. So when I clicked on that pages icon, it brings me over here. These are my loop pages. So you see on the left
mhm,
hand side of the screen there, it says pages, and it shows me recent pages underneath that. And I'm going to bring Daryl's comment up on the screen. So
mhm,
this is the first example of the personal loop workspace container for SharePoint embedded. So it's tied to me. And I can go in here and see, okay, these are all of my pages, and like they're just kind of loose. They're not really connected to anything. They're there, and I can go into here and I can actually find them. And it's an endpoint for me. But to as you're describing, John, and as Daryl's describing, in the chat, I can take this now and add it into a workspace. And it's just, basically 2 clicks to do that. So if I
mhm,
have my prompt notebook, which I use, I can now bring the outputs of those prompts quickly into that notebook, and I can start organizing and kind of linking those things together and really creating a rich repository for me. But because it's a workspace, I can share the workspace, or I can share the page, or I could just share the loop component with
mhm,
teammates and colleagues. And now we can build into that entire workflow. And everybody can access this. But there's a couple other cool features that I think we want to make sure that we highlight. So because this is loop, it's live, and wherever we surface it gets live data. Whenever we access it, it shows the most recent data. So actually heading back into our demo, we've
mhm,
started our initial agenda for Jolly Roger. So we've got this conversation happening, but I'm going to continue my conversation with Copilot. All right, so I'm going to continue my conversation with Copilot. What's a brief summary and key messages and themes for the campaign? And I'm going to have Copilot and iterate against that, and we're going to continue working. But this is the other feature I think that's really nice. So I'm continuing this conversation. This is important. I want to append it to the existing information that I already have.
Mhm.
So I can edit and page. And it's going to add that to the end of that existing page because it's associated with that same conversation. So it's not a huge lift or manual effort for me to continue this and add to it. It's basically one click, continue that conversation, um, and then continue on with your co-piloting and build that document. But as I'm building this document, if I need to share it with somebody else on the other side, they would be able to contribute and use Copilot on their end to do things that they want to do, and we can meet kind of in the middle here. Now, they're not
Mm.
necessarily going to have a Copilot conversation, edit in Pages, and bring it over into a page like I have, but they would be able to go into maybe the document itself, and they would be able to when they're working with it in loop, they would be able to do things like use Copilot in
Mhm.
loop against that, use Copilot in loop against the page, or to rewrite certain content inside of there and work with it that way.
Yeah, there's a little bit of like I feel like it's a little bit of an experience disconnect, right? If you are in Copilot chat and you're using a page side by side, you're essentially having a conversation, but you are optionally for each response, you are pushing it into the loop page. The users who are in loop who are accessing the page, or if you go to the page through loop and you're not in the chat, you're using Copilot inside of loop as you always have, right? You're hitting the space bar and you're typing in a Copilot prompt, right? I think this is a really awesome idea from Daryl, this one right
Yep.
here. Copy the prompt and add it to the page as a code block. So one thing is this conversation, this is private. And I personally, I kind of want some type of world where like we're using chat together, right? And we've got like this co-pilot conversation. That's ultimately the team co-pilot, the thing that was announced at Build back in May. But if you're chatting over here and you're pushing it into the page, your participants, your collaborators, they're not going to know what prompt you used. So I think this is a great idea as Andy's doing right now. Put it in a code block. You can set the language to like a just plain text, but it will kind of give like a little area, a little rectangle where people know what you typed and then what the response is. I would also say maybe if you want to use a code block, that's cool because you get like line numbers. You could also look at call outs. I really like loop call outs because you have an icon. So what you could do is you could use like a little chat emoji or something to say that like this was my prompt if you want to. I kind of like that it's a little bit more visual because I can add like a cute emoji to it. But that's a great idea, Daryl, is, people are only getting half of the conversation, right? They're only listening on one side of the telephone. Unless you grab the prompt and push it in, then everybody kind of gets to learn from your prompt engineering.
And so I just threw a couple of different examples of what it could look like with the various call outs
Mhm.
as you were actually describing that. So you can really pick and choose your own adventure. I personally like the call out. I like the pin. I like the visual icon. I like the way that it's
Mhm.
just kind of set in that particular block. It reminds me a lot of the quote block that we use inside of Microsoft Teams chats.
Mhm. Oh yeah, that's a good point from Daryl. Like he likes the code block because you can click that single copy button and just get the whole thing. With me, with using a call out, you'd have to select the text.
Yeah,
So
that's a
yeah, good
good point.
good ideas. Cool. So, anything else to add about Copilot Pages? I really wish that we could like do it together, Andy, but we're in different sandboxes. So, we're kind of talking about how you would see another person typing over here on the right-hand side. Unfortunately, we can't show that because we're not in the same playground together. But I've used it, in the real world, and it's just like Loop. You see everybody's like face up at the top, and you can see their cursor and where they're typing in real time. It's a great experience.
And I feel like they're just getting started with this. I feel like there's probably a lot more to come. That this is
Hmm.
the first step into something larger. And like I mentioned earlier, having this, I can now put this output into my existing loop based Copilot prompt library, and then I've
Mhm.
got one-stop shop for everything that I need.
Yeah, I think what would be cool, ultimately, I'd like to see us like get to that idea where we've got pages, but then also like a collaborative chat. I think what would be cool somewhere on the interface if you could like flip a switch or something to say like also share this chat and kind of like how chat gpt we can like share a link to the chat, right? And like I text you chats all the time. It'd be kind of cool if it was like some kind of it would like add some type of interactive or like link so that then everybody could open up what you see and they all would get your private chat with it. I think that would be kind of cool, but I guess that might kind of step on the whole idea of team copilot. um, but yeah, I think you're right. I think this isn't the final form of Pages, I'm sure.
This is
I
the
think we'll see
first
a lot more.
iteration. We haven't reached Super
Yeah.
Saiyan level 1 yet.
Yeah, yeah. But I think it's pretty nice. It's definitely more powerful than like what I've been doing, which is like copying the raw output and like sending it in a Teams message. Or God forbid, I'd like take a screenshot and send it to somebody because that's like faster for me. But that's like the worst way to share something because now they can't even copy and paste from it. So I'm really bad about that. Cool. So moving on from Copilot Pages, that was one of my top 3 most exciting things. But to go through a few more of our 8 main topics with Wave 2 is the in Copilot for Teams. So Teams usually kind of gets like the lion's share of announcements, right? It's like the big dog in the house and everything's like, in the context of Teams. With Wave 2, I thought it was really, kind of like just a passing mention of Teams. And it was something we already knew about, right? That they were going to bring the meeting chat and the transcript together as one resource. But Microsoft did highlight that again in the Wave 2 blog. So they're considering it part of the Wave 2 announcements. And that is that if you've got a meeting, so I've got this meeting right here with the recap, and it's just a very short meeting, but you can see like I've got the transcript. And the idea is that as we all know, especially us MVPs who are in these meetings where like the chat is just going nuts all the time, there's the conversation and then there's the chat conversation, right? And it's like two different worlds and we struggle to keep track of both of them. And I usually, if I go over to the chat, I miss what's said verbally and vice versa. If I'm listening intently here, then I miss the chat. Um, Copilot is now referencing both of those in a meeting. So if you go to the recap and you use the Copilot button, so you get the sidebar, then you're getting resources from both the transcript and from the chat conversation. Likewise, if you're in the meeting and you use the Copilot button at the top and you ask like, what did I miss? It's going to summarize the transcript and the chat for you. So you get like that full end-to-end context of the conversation. So not a lot deeper than that. I don't know if you have anything to add to that one, Andy. But I think it's good to point out that you're not missing a whole other conversation.
Yeah, I agree that meetings take place in 2 places. It's what's said on the screen and what's said out loud
Mhm,
and what people are communicating verbally and visually on the screen, but also what's happening inside of
mhm.
that conversation. And sometimes that conversation is even more valuable than what's actually being shown on the screen, believe it or
Right?
not.
Yeah.
And
This is really
merging
helpful for me in my trainings that we do because we're doing like training and it's like about Copilot, what's going on with Copilot. At the end, I like to do a demo where I say create an FAQ and I would have to do it verbally and then I have to go to the chat and do it and I'd have to paste it in twice. Now I can just get it because realistically, especially in a training environment, all of the answers to questions are typically being done in the chat because it's like a one-way broadcast. So those of you who are using like webinars, especially where people can't unmute and talk, you're going to get the entire answers to questions in the chat. So this puts it in that one place. Um, I don't know if you struggle with that too, where like the chat was where all of the knowledge ended up being.
what my workflow is typically wrap up the meeting, Copilot against it for meeting notes, summaries,
Hmm.
action items, unanswered questions. then go back and review the actual chat and conversation and then summarize that. And some of that ends up being a manual effort to do. Some of
Mhm.
it I can occasionally work with Copilot to summarize and put those bullet points together. But
Yeah.
converging the two is going to streamline that workflow for me. I was actually in some meetings this week, and I got a couple of good ideas around that. And
Mhm.
some of the or one of the ideas, and I'm going to mention it here. This might be a Copilot tip or trick for some of you to take advantage of.
Mhm.
Is you're going to deliver a presentation, a training. That's what we typically deliver, a training.
Mhm.
Maybe do a dry run of it where it's just you and Copilot, and you're recording, and you got your transcription, and then go back afterward and ask Copilot to help you to create summary questions for the content that you just delivered, to make
Ooh, yeah.
suggestions where to ask those questions while you're delivering it. Have it like take the transcript and have Copilot assume the persona of an attendee, and try to, based off of the presentation, anticipate questions that attendees might ask. You can
Mhm.
also, once you've delivered that presentation, use Copilot to go back and suggest poll questions that you can ask along the way to
Mhm.
keep people engaged throughout. I think using that in that attendee role and using it as kind of that persona could really change the way that you deliver your content and really make a more engaging presentation for those people that are attending that stuff live
Yeah.
later on.
Dude, that's such a good idea. I never thought about that. Like, we have the speaker coach today, but the speaker coach is all about delivery, right? Are you using filler words? Are you using inclusive language, stuff like that? But if you use Copilot as your practice attendee, now you're getting measured on the performance and the delivery, but also on the content, because speaker coach doesn't help you at all with the content. And do you have gaps in the content? So you could ask Copilot, like, you are a level 100 understander of this technology that I'm presenting about. What did I miss? What would be confusing to you as a non-technical person in, accounting or something like that? Dude, that's a great idea. If you combine both of those, you're really getting like a pretty well-rounded delivery coach there. You just need to like schedule a meeting by yourself and hit transcribe, and you could get the best of both worlds.
Yeah, that one's been percolating for a few days. I've done some light
Dude,
testing
that's a good
around it, and the
idea.
results have been extremely positive. So I'm going to continue down that one. Maybe we'll circle back to that in a deep dive in the future.
Yeah, that's a killer idea. Um, Daryl has in here, like, I wonder if Copilot like knows the difference between the chat and the transcript. This is an interesting question. I don't know the answer to it, but I'm wondering, yeah, if like, would Copilot be able to highlight this question was asked in chat, but it was addressed in the meeting verbally? Would it like know one versus the other and be able to kind of like stitch that together with you? And then this one here, I would love this. You see this in Twitch meeting or Twitch live streams, right? Where they've got like a plugin that kind of reads the comment out loud for them, and it's like a super terrible robotic voice. But imagine if like Copilot could be your moderator, and you could like click, you like, hey Copilot, are there any good questions? And then like you could have, a natural language, like, really good sounding Copilot could be like, yeah John, there's this really interesting thing by so and so in the chat, and it could like read it to you, but it would sound like an assistant doing it, not just like robotically reading the words. But if it kind of was like your co-host, that would be killer. That's a really good idea too, Daryl. I like that. Okay, so moving on from Microsoft Teams, I don't know, I got really excited by a couple ideas there, even though that was supposed to be like the light section. Um, into Outlook, another favorite from everybody. Outlook for me is exciting, but it's to be seen, right? So unfortunately, I don't have any demos of any of these features yet because all of this stuff hasn't rolled out to me yet, but the big one was this mailbox prioritization. I know Daryl mentioned that in the chat as well. Essentially, what Copilot is going to do in the Outlook experience is it's going to understand what is potentially important in your email mailbox. And then it won't do this automatically. What you'll have to do is go into your filters in the top corner and say filter or sort by Copilot priority. Then you'll actually see it push them up to the top. So it's not going to mess up your mailbox until you want it to. But if you sort by Copilot priority, it's going to tell you why. So, like, Copilot says, I think that this is an urgent issue, so I'm giving it a high priority. And it's kind of like, rather than a flagged email, it's like a blue up arrow, that's coming from Copilot. And then what's nice is you'll be able to kind of tune this a little bit. So when you go into that particular email, you'll click like the summary by Copilot. There's going to be this new priority button in the upper corner. And then you'll be able to tell Copilot, this was an important email to me, and you can tell it why. So either because like it's for an important client, it's from an important person, or just a free text like this is why this is important, and you kind of push that back to Copilot to teach it what it should care about. um, so that's the mailbox prioritization feature. There's also some stuff like suggesting prompts when you're drafting, so you'll be able to get more inline prompt recommendations, as well as change just part of an email without having to like rewrite the entire email. So it's a little bit like what we got in Microsoft Word, where you can like select a section and rewrite just those couple paragraphs if you want. And then Andy, I think you were pretty excited about this like orchestration idea, right? That not all of us know how to like go do these complex multi-layer rules. Now you'll be able to ask in natural language to have Copilot do that for you. And I think you've seen this a little bit, right? Using
Uh,
that like sidebar.
the last two bullet points, I've seen those in multiple environments. I think I can
Okay.
actually demo some of those in our sandbox.
Sure. Yeah. Let me flip over to your screen. Um, there you go. You're up now.
All right. So I'll try to go through both of them. I'll start with the last one first. I'm
Hmm.
going to go to Copilot in the upper right hand corner. When I open that up, there's a couple of different things here. The first one that I see, the site or that I'm going to point out is to organize my inbox. Create a rule to do something with things in your inbox. So I'm going to drop that in. Create a rule to, and I'm going to say categorize emails from John, and I'm going to send that. And when I've ran this in the past like week or so for testing, this is exactly what it does.
Hmm.
It goes into the settings, drills down into mail, drills down into rules, applies a title, and starts trying to apply a condition to that rule and then an action. I teach this stuff all the time for end users, and so we have to say, go the gear, mail, rules, and then we have to talk about conditions and actions and
Hmm.
operators and that whole thing. This did it pretty simply, or started the process pretty simply in natural language, including filling out some of the details. So it would just be a matter of me going in and actually entering in the correct email address, um,
Yeah.
applying the category, and then telling it that go ahead and apply the rule and run that. And then just like that, like we've already started to categorize. I think that's going to streamline this a lot. And to be
That's so
honest,
nice.
this reminds me of when Microsoft announced Copilot for Windows. And they're like, it can do 13 things, including setting your system to dark mode. And it's like, really, we need a setting for that? But if it's buried in the
Hmm.
sub menus, you have to go to the Windows icon, then you have to go to Windows settings, and then you have to
Hmm.
drill down through those sub menus to find it. If I just say, hey, Copilot, put it in the dark mode, that streamlines that whole thing. And I think that's what they're looking to do here uh, with um, with some of the settings changes that you can apply globally. I did see a prompt just a little while ago that wa- was trying to organize my
Hmm.
my inbox. So like if we go and take a look at like some of the settings here, take action. So like move emails from person to folder. That's going to create a rule. Um, let's see if we go back. Most of the asks are going to be around things that are already in the inbox. So we'll come back to that in a moment. Catch up.
Mhm.
Catch up. We've done some of this with Copilot previously. So it's basically going to be around like summarization of things that have happened over the last, n number of days. And then manage. Right now, manage is empty. Right now, schedule is empty. So I've seen this in multiple environments. It's placeholders. It looks like there's some more of that functionality that's getting ready to roll out here in the near
Mhm.
future. There was one though that I wanted to go back to, and this is a brief segue. Well, we'll go to the draft in a minute, but this is a brief segue, and this is kind of an after effect of some of the Copilot Wave 2 stuff that I think is really important. Find emails from. That's a simple search. Find emails from. We typically use the search box. We search the current folder. Maybe we drill down into a subfolder.
Mhm.
Maybe we use the filters and we go into the advanced search and we go to search. But using Copilot to find and search your inbox is going to be a huge time saver, because
Yeah.
you just need a snippet. You don't necessarily need a large keyword or phrase. You just need a snippet of that conversation. And this Copilot will find that thing very, very quickly. Versus if I'm trying to do this search, I'm having to use search operators like quotes and double quotes,
Mhm.
um, not or wildcards and operators, or I'm having to use the advanced filters. That can be pretty tedious. Versus if I can go over here and just use Copilot to search against it, I can usually get something back fairly quickly, because it can find 6 degrees of separation. Another couple things to point out: there's now the chat history here. So like if I click on this, it'll show me previous things that I've done. So like I did a demo on this not too long ago. Create a rule to prioritize Teams meetings and color those to red. And so that's built in. So the chat history is nice because I can go back and revisit a previous conversation without necessarily having to start all over. But if I need to, I can delete that previous conversation. The thing that I found about this though is
Mhm.
that this history is scoped to just Outlook, versus if I go to Copilot Chat, BizChat, and I'm working with the history there, that those conversations could go all over the place. I don't see the BizChat conversations when I'm in Outlook. I just see the Outlook chat
Yeah.
history, which narrows it down, and that's really nice to be able to return back to that. So those are just a couple of nuances that I've noticed over here. Some of these weren't necessarily announced with Wave 2, but they've rolled out in the process of some of the Wave 2 updates over the last few weeks or month.
Mhm.
The other one, let's go into the drafting piece. So I'm going to draft an email. So updates on the Jolly Roger marketing campaign. So I'm just going to generate that message, and I'm going to see if we're going to see this stuff here in the sandbox. I've noticed a lot of updates to this here recently. So I gave it a single sentence, and Michaela Barrett's going to love this. I gave it words; it gave me more words, and so it filled in, whatever it thought. I would go back and review that, but I noticed like some of the filtering things have changed a little bit.
Yeah.
Whenever we're drafting in here, make it longer, shorter, more formal, more casual. Make it a poem. We've seen a couple of these, but I feel like that's changed a little bit. So I'm going to keep that. And then I've got this long conversation going. I'm going to go up here to coaching, and we're going to see if this is actually going to do this. So when I go now, there's tone, there's sentiment, and there's clarity. But this thing, apply
Mhm.
all the suggestions, that hasn't been there until recently. Before I found, okay, here's a suggestion. I should probably like copy and paste this and drop it into the message. But now the copy all suggestions is showing up, and I can take all the coaching tips if I want and apply those all at one time versus individually. So that one's relatively new. I'm
Yeah,
doing
I've gotten feedback on that like, okay, it's coaching me, but like I have to go manually do something about it. Like now you can action those things.
yeah.
That smooths it out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I've noticed like I'm doing this for Outlook and the web. I've noticed this is on the new Outlook client for Windows and on
Hmm.
Mac. So I'm seeing those features. And I can't show you here because I'm connected to my work environments and not my demo environment. But some of the bullet point number 2 about some of the kind of auto completion stuff, that's actually
Hmm.
on the desktop apps already. It's already there. For some reason, it got there first before it's shown up in our Outlook for the web environment.
Interesting. Nice. So that I think that pretty much covers all the stuff I have on the list for Outlook. I think it's a little bit of like outside of the prioritization feature, it feels like Outlook, it's like one of those kind of polishing updates, right? It's like it's reaching a new level of maturity, right? But I would say Outlook, the Teams experience, some of those are kind of the more mature experiences. So we're seeing, they're less earth shaking type of announcements, but they're like, uh, you know, quality of life type stuff. So, um, you want to get into Word next and talk a little bit about Word?
Sounds good.
Okay, so in Word, for those Wave 2 announcements that we've seen come out from Microsoft, the first one is this graph grounded chat. And you're seeing this in this kind of back screenshot, which is the idea that now in Word, you can reference not only other files, which you could do before, you could reference a file, but now you can use that slash command to get what's called context IQ. So you can get that up and reference people and emails and chats and meetings, all of those things. So you're seeing right here that we're referencing not only a Word document, but we've got a PDF, we've got a meeting on the calendar, and a Word document. We're kind of bringing all those things together to draft something in Microsoft Word. So it's much more connected with what we call graph grounded chat. Auto summarization. This is a little bit of a controversial update, I think, in some areas, which is the idea that when you open up a document in Word on the web, and this is going to start out on Word on the web, it will automatically summarize that for you. So you're going to get this little box at the top of your document that tells you like what is in the document below. It gives you some of those key highlights. Two things that make it controversial in my mind. One, just from a practicality standpoint, of when I'm a little bit concerned about it's going to like push the content down a little bit. I've had users complain literally about in PowerPoint. There's like now the new floating icon for Copilot. It pushes their slide slightly down so it's not perfectly centered up and down. That's the kind of nitpickiness that some users have. They want it on the side so it doesn't move their slide. This is going to like move your document down a little bit. I think it's a nice feature. I think it's going to be helpful to kind of give you like, here's the gist of this document. But some people who are like really, really a little bit anal about this stuff, it's going to like bump it down however many pixels. The second one is this means that it's going to actually like run an AI summarization on your document automatically. So if there's situations where like we want to be completely in control of whether or not we use AI, some of this stuff like this, it's going to run it. It's going to still be in your secure Microsoft 365 environment, just like your emails are, stuff like that. But it is going to run a here's what this document is about type of prompt automatically for you. That's something to be aware of, and to if that's some kind of a risk that you need to document, you might want to be aware of that and make sure that we write those types of things down and give feedback where appropriate. Um, the third one is shown here on this front slide, or this front screenshot, which is coaching. So like Andy showed the coaching in inside of Outlook, we have the ability now, or coming soon, where you'll get coaching on your writing in a Word document as well. So like, is this clear? Do I need to like be a little bit more, have some more clarity in the way that I'm speaking? Does it like flow properly? Does it make any sense? Stuff like that. And then again, kind of like Outlook, we're seeing some of these, features shared is suggested prompts. So in the middle of a document, you go between like two thoughts and you're inserting text in the middle. You can basically like inject something and you'll get suggested prompts to kind of fill out that blank section. Anything to add to that, Andy?
Other than some of this is live in the sandbox and we can demo on it, no, I think you nailed most of it.
Okay, sweet. So kind of a light one again, but next is a
Do you want
fairly meaty one, which is
to,
Excel.
before we get into
Go
Excel,
ahead.
do you want to demo a couple of the word things?
Um, I don't have much that I can demo because like the auto summarization for me is not out yet, and the coaching. We may be able to show some of the graph grounded chat stuff. So if we go into my OneDrive, actually I go into SharePoint. I've got like this marketing SharePoint right here with some marketing documents for like Q4. So there's some stuff about like acronyms or like a work profile, stuff like that. So if we add in a Word document here, in the prompt. Hopefully this comes up for me. So I've got that kind of new experience up here at the top. And you can see that you can now reference not only files, but you can also like bring files in from the cloud. So I can be like, write a sample menu for the winter drink lineup at Jolly Roger Java, and then you can use that slash to kind of bring in like, here's our social media marketing campaign uh to get the names of the products, right? So if it's like inside of a marketing campaign, you can go reference that, or here's the like 4 recipes and they're saved as like PDFs or something, then it does that. So you can see here that it's pulling in like the snowy latte, the chestnut praline cappuccino. Those are names from that marketing campaign. We're now going to do another document and pull that in, so I don't have to like flip back and forth, right, and remember what those names are.
So
So that's
before
the idea, that graph grounded. Yeah, go ahead.
discard that one and go back
Okay.
up to the original prompt.
Yeah. Oh, I lost it.
Right, so just start typing in, like just say update and then / social media marketing campaign.
Okay.
And then,
Yeah.
yeah, just select the one. Give it a space and just sit tight for a second. There we go.
Okay. Yeah. There's those auto suggestions. Okay.
Yeah, the auto suggestions. And this is really cool
Yeah.
because it's using Copilot auto suggestions, and you can hit tab to insert it into the document, and you can just keep going.
Mm-hmm.
I find this really useful for inspiration because it's kind of giving you some insight into how to talk to
Yeah.
Copilot. Now, we haven't
That's a
like
good
pushed
point.
this all the way to the limit, but it's inferring, the document and using its training and kind of looking at what you're asking it, and it's trying to append to the end of that and make useful suggestions. And sometimes those useful suggestions, like
Mm-hmm.
autocomplete, can be inspiring and give you an idea. Oh, I didn't think about that. Maybe I should include a section on prevention of blah blah blah. Um,
Mm-hmm.
you know,
Yeah, I was doing like fake data for Jolly Roger Java, and we're going to show this in the agents thing. So I was making a bunch of HR policies, and this was how I was writing those policies. Was I was just like, oh yeah, and important on confidentiality. Oh, also yeah, they need some contact information. So it's all fake data in this instance, but yeah, it gives you an idea of like prompt engineering by watching Copilot kind of build prompts for itself. In a lot of ways, it kind of like leads by example,
yeah.
you know? So you can make these kind of monster sized prompts, and then we can see what generates here as a substance abuse policy for like a company. So, right. And it doesn't know, obviously, like the contact information, but it's like, hey, you're going to have an HR department, you're going to have counseling services, stuff like that. You're going to fill in the contact info for that. But, it kind of it helps you when you're writing a document by using uh, those suggested prompts. What I like about that is it helps you with blind spots. Like, is there something that I'm missing in this prompt go ahead and like watch it autofill that thing. And if it's not good, then don't use it. If it's good, then just go ahead and hit tab and it just adds it right there.
And I think there's one other
Yeah.
thing that's important to call out, and we can't see here on the screen because your name's in the lower left-hand corner there. But how many characters does it say
Oh
in the
yeah.
lower left-hand corner there?
492 words.
All right.
Yeah.
So that's not the limit. There is a
Yeah.
limit for like the number of characters. It's usually around like 3,000 or so that Copilot's actually going to generate. So you might have to generate iteratively in some batches, but I just thought that was an important
Yeah.
call out. That was actually something Microsoft published in one of their blogs not too long ago
Hmm.
as an official limit for Copilot, but you won't find it in like Learn.Microsoft or anything like that. It was actually a blog post where they mentioned that limit.
Yeah. And then also like by clicking on that words thing, you get like your editor score, which is really cool. Cause then like now I'm using again another machine learning type of AI, but
Yeah.
I can see like this is pretty dang good writing already. But
Yep.
it's got like some grammar suggestion in here. For help for substance abuse, it's for help with substance abuse. So now it's 100%. Look at that, Copilot. You pat yourself on the back, Copilot. Um, but yeah, that's pretty good. I like that. Okay, so I'm gonna delete this because it's not a winter drink menu anymore. But
That's a
it's
whole
gonna do
different kind
some
of winter
funky
drink
things in a
menu.
demo. Yeah, later on. Okay, you want to move on to Excel?
Yeah.
Okay. I'll let you talk about Excel a little bit. I also have not seen this yet because the Python capabilities in particular, apparently that requires an insider build from what I've seen. But I was able to see a Microsoft employee do a lot of demos this week in Orlando on it.
So the biggest announcement that they've made around Copilot for Excel is that it's no longer in preview. It's considered general availability. Whether that significantly changes the functionality, that's up for conversation. But
Hmm.
when you open up and invoke Copilot in Excel now, you're not going to see it at the top that says preview. It's considered general availability. So the next series of things that they've done that are pretty cool are we've seen this previously. You don't have to use strictly table formatted data. If you have
Hmm.
a set of rows and columns together, you're going to be able to use Copilot against it to extract insights and analysis and create charts and visualization. So it doesn't have to be strictly formatted in a table anymore. In fact, to invoke Copilot, like a year ago, I had to click in data that was table formatted, and then the
Hmm.
Copilot icon would light up, and I could use it. Now I can just click anywhere, any cell inside of my workbook, and I'm going to be able to invoke Copilot against that content.
Hmm.
If it's a table, it'll use the table that's nearest to the cursor. If it's not table formatted, it'll look for the nearest set of columns and rows to actually work with. So that's going to increase your ability to work with it. Then they've started to add to it. So previously, we've been able to do things like understand, help me to summarize this data, help me to apply conditional formatting, help me to gain insights from this data,
Hmm.
help me to create a column or insert a new column into this data. Take this data, convert it to a pivot table or a chart or a graphic or a visualization, and then some creation of formulas. They've expanded those skill sets now. The second bullet point we have here is the advanced skills, working with more powerful Excel formulas and Excel features like XLOOKUP and SUMIF, conditional formatting. And through natural language, you can say, I need you to do conditional formatting on this column. Values above this should be highlighted in red.
Hmm.
And just like that, it'll parse through that particular column and it'll start applying the conditional formatting there. So you don't have to worry about the operators. The value operator equals, does not equals, less than, greater than, and then the comparison, and then the color output that you want. It's going to do a lot of that for you. The other thing about the formulas is that it can help you to troubleshoot the formulas. So if you've got a syntax error, it can help you to fix that. If you're not sure about the exact formatting, maybe you want to do an X lookup, but you're used to V lookup. And so even though the formatting's a little bit similar there's a couple of changes. It can help
Hmm.
you with that. So it's going to democratize the ability to work with formulas for a lot of users. But the one that I am like stupid excited about, and don't ask me why I'm so excited about this one, but I'm going to tell you why I'm so excited about this one, is the ability for text support. Working with text in uh, a, a workbook. If you have a column of text-based data, it can help you to summarize and create insights around that. Think surveys and quizzes and polling. You're
Hmm.
probably collecting a lot of free text. If you're doing a customer service survey, if you're doing a teammate engagement survey, if you're doing a training survey, you're probably working with text based data.
Hmm.
Now it can work with that text based data and it can return insights based off of that. So I'm going to try and pull up
Yeah,
a
you want to
demo.
show that?
Yeah, give me just a second.
So this is something I'm going to be using now. At the beginning of our time in Orlando, when we were working this booth, um, Amy Dolzing, my colleague, who's a fellow MVP, was there with us. She had the idea to create a Microsoft form so that we could capture like each person we talked to with like a note of what we wanted to follow up on. So every time we talked to somebody in the background, we were like, typing up a quick note. Well, we use Microsoft Forms for that, so we're able to now open up all those responses inside of an Excel spreadsheet. And Forms, you can get like a word cloud and stuff like that. But now with Excel, with Copilot, I'm able to, ask like what was the common question, what were the themes and stuff like that. Even though I wasn't using the same words to describe what we talked about and stuff like that, I can kind of get some like trends based off of the words that were in there. And that's a new Wave 2 feature that we've got. We're able to find that survey
Yeah, yeah. So if you
spreadsheet.
want to go
Okay.
ahead and bring my screen up,
Yeah.
I'll do this one really meta. So I've got a Microsoft form, the Jolly Roger Java Fall Menu Specialist for 2024, and I'm collecting customer feedback from those people. And I've only got a few questions there, but one of the questions is actually built around a choice menu, and the other one's built around like free text, and then I got a couple of just selection options. So if I go and view the responses, so we're going to go in here. Here's my workbook, and
Hmm.
got the ability to download a copy or sync into a new one. But I'm just going to open up the default workbook there. All right, we'll zoom in a little bit. Hopefully, the recording will be a little bit better. There we go. There's some of my data. All right. So there's the home tab. We'll open up Copilot, and I've got a couple of columns there specifically, and I'm just going to expand all of this real quick just so it shows up a little better.
Hmm.
Formats. There we go. The column that I'd really like to learn more about is the additional comments or suggestions. And so I'm going to say, I'm going to be very specific, the additional comments or suggestions.
Hmm.
I haven't clicked in or selected that particular column, but I just want to kind of push it a little bit and see what it's going to do. And so it went through and it did find that particular column. It says how likely you recommend our fall menu specials, and then so it's saying that these are some of the suggestions. And then we go down here, and now it's giving it to me in plain text. This is a small sample. If I had a much larger sample, it would give you more detailed summary options.
Hmm.
But this is really nice because now we're working with text-based data, and we know in Excel we're not always working with just numbers. If we're doing surveys and things like this, polling, it can be really helpful. Um, Maybe I'll say like summarize fall menu. Oh, come on, type special selections. There we go. And we just want to see if it's going to hit column G.
Mm-hmm.
And so you see natural language, it was able to do that. If I want to add this to a new sheet, we can absolutely do that. And it's already got, actually, I'm going to add that to a new sheet because I want to see what that's going to look like. So we go in and we can see it already went ahead and created an if statement, which is really nice. And if we expand off of that, we can see the entire formula. And
It's
if
a
you
pretty
don't
big
know
formula.
what any of that means, allow me to introduce you to my friend Copilot.
You could do like explain like I'm 5.
And now you've got a detailed explanation of what that formula
That's a
actually
good
means.
idea.
You can go back and you can Copilot against it a few different ways. But just heading back to it, I'll go back to the main sheet and pull back up my conversation with Copilot. And then we'll go here. And it went ahead in plain text and just told me the most enjoyed fall menu specials are the pumpkin spice latte with 3 selections, the maple pecan scone, and the butternut squash soup with 1 mention each. So working with just text is really, really cool. Now, John had this up on the slide a moment ago. I'm going to go ahead and address this. In this particular demo environment, we are not in the Microsoft Office Insiders channel. And so we can't do Python with Copilot. And that's one of the new features that Microsoft's really been touting for Copilot is the Python capabilities.
Mm-hmm.
And if you look on the screenshots here, there's a couple examples of what Python can actually do.
Yeah,
Yeah, there you go.
let me go up and down. It like plays a animated GIF. There we go.
So you see, just
So it's
ask
like I've got all this data, like 5 years, forecast the next 2 years. That's a very complicated thing. So it's going to fall back to writing some Python code, and it gives you the Python that was written to do that. Now, what I found, Andy, in standing side by side with Microsoft this week, the way to do this, if you're on an insider build and you're looking for Python, when you open up the Copilot in Excel, go back to your screen real quick. Can you open up the Copilot sidebar? All the way up at the top, you've got those like prompt starters. Look for one that says Advanced Analytics. When you click on that, it will execute a batch of Python functions for you to do things like this forecast, or there's all kinds of like really advanced. When she was doing it, Emily from Microsoft, it was doing like 6 or 7 different Python functions, and it was doing it like automatically. And then she had a button where it was like, go deeper, or like more analysis. It's like the Kylo Ren gif where it's like more, but like the more she kept doing it, it just was like finding like insane things that it could do to kind of keep doing that. And it creates a new page, or a new sheet in your workbook that is called analysis 1, and that's where it puts all those like visualizations from Python. And it just kept slapping more and more things that, given the context of the data, it was like, oh, we can do a regression here, we can do a forecast. So it was like picking out all kinds of relevant things that you could do. But if you're running beta or insider builds, look for a button that says Advanced Analysis, and that's how you can manually invoke Python.
And I've got it, the article from Microsoft pulled up on the screen if we want to share that. I shared the link in the chat window.
Okay.
So this is from support.microsoft.com. Copilot in Excel with Python. Here's the advanced analysis that John was talking about in the center here. Gives you just a brief explanation, kind of gives you a screenshot of what it might potentially look like, and it tells you that you can also stop the advanced analysis at any particular point.
Yeah, it's like you go into a mode and you click that button to get back out of the mode and go
Right.
to like normal Copilot.
Right.
It's like it puts on its nerd glasses even more so.
The interesting thing is scoping. I've noticed that in some of the demos, scope the
Oh,
workbook,
so you can
scope this
kinda
sheet, scope this table. Yep.
okay.
And then they talk about the availability here, and this is what we mentioned. It is part of the Microsoft 365 Insider program.
Mhm.
And some of the Copilot features I've noticed have started to push out there. I think Word had one or two that popped up in the Insider program before it went for some of the other channels and went GA. This one's in the Insider program. And just to point out, anything that's in Insider program, it's available to those people that are participating in it. And publicly, you can participate in the Insider program. And if
Mhm.
you're in an enterprise environment, if your company allows you to, you can. But just know that things in the Insider program are sometimes subject to be rolled back. They might roll it
Yeah.
out, get some feedback, find some issues or bugs. Then they roll back that feature for a little while they go back and actually work on it. And we see that happen with a number of features. I think one specifically was loop components in Word. That was an insider
Mhm.
feature in Word, and that's been rolled back. So we can't use loop components in Word right
Yeah.
now.
Don't write your adoption documents off of the insider build because things will disappear, but also the name or the icon will also change
Right,
sometimes, and then now all your screenshots don't work. So,
right.
yeah, good call. Okay, so, anything else with Excel, or we wanna move on to PowerPoint?
Let's move on.
All right, cool. So something that I'm certainly more comfortable with is PowerPoint. I live in PowerPoint all day, every day. So some welcome things to PowerPoint. There's two main announcements that are considered wave two for PowerPoint. The first is this narrative builder, and we see this in the background. This is the idea of building a presentation um, more as like a partnership with Copilot, where you're sussing out the flow of the presentation before you generate the slides. I love the narrative builder. This is number two of my top three things because in before you would have to kind of get your prompt right the first time and then generate all your slides. So it was kind of like one shot prompting was all you could do. This is a lot more interactive way of building your slides. The second thing is the brand manager, is what they call it. And this is using the org asset library. So if you're an organization who you're using SharePoint, you do need to implement a SharePoint org asset library. That might be a good session for the future, Andy, is like going through and setting up an org asset library. It's pretty simple, but I found that a lot of enterprises haven't done it, right? So now you have a really good reason why you want to finally go do an OAL, because anything in that org asset library will be leveraged by Copilot in Wave 2 for PowerPoint. So if you've got a template that's in there, a POTX file, it will use that as your corporate template. So you'll get the right colors and fonts and stuff like that. But also importantly, if you use like the Microsoft Designer, like Design My Slides, and you want to insert pictures, they will come from your company's library. So they'll come from that org asset library. So if you need to use enterprise approved images and the template for your organization, you're going to want to set up the org asset library so you can take advantage of brand manager. I'm not sure, I don't think brand manager has rolled out yet. I think that's still to come, but we can certainly show a narrative builder if you want. um do you know if brand manager, I don't think it's out yet, is it?
I haven't seen it,
Okay.
and
uh,
in our sandboxes, that's going to be
yeah.
limited.
Okay, sure. So to show a little bit of this narrative builder, it's going to be this floating icon, the one that I kind of complained about. You know, some users have complained that like now there's more space at the bottom than the top. That's this floating icon that I talked about. If you open up Copilot from the sidebar, you're still going to get what you always had, right? You can create from a file or create about a topic, but it's just going to create those slides. If you want the narrative builder, click the floating icon in the top left corner and then create a presentation about something. Why did that not pop up? I might not have the update. Let me do it from the web. So again, going back over here to Jolly Roger Java, we're going to do a new PowerPoint. And then there we go. Create about. So this is the narrative builder. It comes up as like a window, kind of a pop-up. So the winter drink lineup for Jolly Roger Java. So one thing that's missing from this, but Microsoft said is coming in the future, it's on their roadmap, is the ability to reference a file. So you can't reference a file today and point to like the Word document. But this is good for if I want to create a presentation on a topic.
What
So we're
if
going to click
you
OK. Go
what if
ahead.
you add a copy link in there?
It doesn't work still. Yeah, I tried doing that before. So it doesn't have like any graph grounded data yet.
Gotcha.
But yeah, I know it's like one of those fast follow things that they're doing. So once this comes up, it's like we've got a few options. It's got some like warm options, some seasonal things like that. So there's three things I can do with this. I can rearrange the options. So a lot like a loop component, I can click this little handle and drag them around. I can delete an entire topic if I want to. So I can like just scrub that whole thing out. Or I can also add a topic right here and like add a topic about, I don't know, cold drinks for the coffee shop using pirate themed names, right? So I can insert a topic into it and it's going to add it to the middle here. Captain's Cold Brew, Buccaneers Iced Latte, whatever. And then what's cool is when you click generate slides now, you get to see it get built. It's a little bit more visual. So it's going to start by creating the slide structure. And we actually see all the slides get created with their titles. Then you're going to see the bullets pop into it. So you're going to see the content kind of feed in. Then you're going to see all of the images get added in. So like we've just got titles now. In a second, once it gets to the end, you're going to see all the subtitles or all the like header two. So there's all those come in. Then you're going to see it generate pictures. Finally, it's going to do the slide notes. So you kind of see that it's doing something where with the old way of building, it was like just a loader bar and then it was just done. So now I've got all of this. It shows in a grid view. I can click keep it and open up one of these. And again, I've still got like all my speaker notes right here and these pictures. Now, in the future, with that brand manager thing, whenever you like replace, where's my replace picture
Click
button?
back
Is
on
it
the picture. Yeah,
this
it's right
one?
there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
In here, when you go to like images, it's going to pull them from like your org asset library instead. We don't in our sandbox, we don't have the power. We're not admins, so we don't have an org asset library. But that's what it'll look like in the future when we have brand manager. So, any thoughts about the kind of narrative builder? This is one of my favorite features as well because I felt like you kind of had one shot before. Now you can kind of go back and forth and have a better chance of getting a good result.
Yeah, I like the narrative builder. I'm interested to see it expand a little bit and reference some previous files, and then to be able to do some of the same content generation.
Mm-hmm.
I love the ability to reorder because I don't always agree with the order, and this is
Yeah.
simpler, I think, than dragging and dropping slides because sometimes that interface is a little bit buggy. But
Mm-hmm.
also just being able to subtract, hit the trash can, and get rid of the suggestion if you don't want to include
Mm-hmm.
that. I think that's just really nice.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to being able to use files. Also to do web. I would like to see, it be able to pull in, from the web and reference those things. And then also I would like to be able to get into a section right here and actually edit it,
Yeah.
and like add a bullet in. Like right now you can only do like top level topics,
Yep.
but I'd like to kind of reword some of these things a little bit. I think that would be kind of nice as well. Today, it's kind of like all or nothing for a topic. So it's like we've gotten one level of granularity. Of course, I want more level, where I could say, like, on this bullet right here, I'd be like, I could add, if I could add a note to it that's like represent this as a table
You're
or
right.
something. Like if I could kind of steer it in a direction, that would be cool.
Now, one thing that I did
So
notice with this, and the number of bullet points that you see here does not directly translate into the number of slides that it creates.
not
I
necessarily. Yeah.
I noticed, like, I did this as a demo yesterday, actually, as a matter of fact, and it had 6 or 8 bullet
Hmm.
points. But when it created my presentation, it had 19 slides total.
Yeah.
So, it doubled, and that does include a couple of section header slides, and then
Hmm.
a title slide, and then a ending slide. But like, it did double, I think, the amount of content slides that it was going to potentially create. So that was a little bit different.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. So that's PowerPoint Wave 2. I think we're going to see some, even more exciting things. But that's let's put a pin in that. I'm excited to talk brand manager when it comes because I think we can get our hands dirty doing the org asset library.
Yeah, I agree.
All right, you want to end out with some agents, some agentic
Agents.
AI. This
This
is a funny thing. Like I feel like the word agentic it was, it obviously existed before this summer, but it feels like an invented word that now like everybody has it on like their LinkedIn tags. It's like everybody's like all of a sudden acts like they say the word agentic that that they just heard it. Like me, I'm willing to admit it. I did not hear the word agentic until like 2 months ago. But it's funny because it's like now everybody's an expert in agentic something.
That's
It
funny
feels like such
because
a BS thing to me.
the whole agent thing, as soon as they introduced that, my first thought
Yeah.
was back to um, the Christopher Nolan Batman movies, The Dark Knight, and
Mhm.
the Joker. I'm an agent of chaos, and that was the first place that I went in my head. There, it's like, oh, agents. Okay, here we go. We're
I
gonna
should
have
add
people,
that to my LinkedIn subtitle. I've got one my like subtitle says I'm usefully wrong. I liked that wording from Jared Spataro where it's like, it hallucinates. They don't say the word hallucinate, they say it's usefully wrong.
right?
I was like, well, I'm usefully wrong a lot of times. I like that. I should say agent of chaos. AI
Copilot
agent
agent
of
of
chaos.
chaos.
Right. So Copilot agents. This is the idea of it's taken on a few terms or a few like morphed in from a few terms before where it was like this idea of GPTs, right? There was Chat GPT, and then you can create a plugin, right? And it was like adding in other resources, other knowledge and information. They went to calling them GPTs, and it was like this natural language way of creating a custom GPT that kind of had like its own training set, and you're kind of honing in and fine tuning what it can do in that kind of persona. And then Microsoft had the idea of that, and they had custom copilots, right? And you could create custom copilots in like the consumer version. There was custom copilots in Copilot Studio and like the builder. They're kind of landing now on this idea of a Copilot agent. So realistically, from like a SharePoint Copilot perspective, it's a rename from like the custom copilots to now being called Copilot agents. And the ultimate form of these is the idea that it automates and streamlines processes, right? So we just saw earlier this week in London, there was the AI tour in London, and Satya was there. I think Jared Spataro was there,
Yep.
I believe, and they talked about this automatic actions that you will be able to do coming soon, and automatic triggers of agents and stuff. So it's like, oh, it's watching, and when like you get an email that kind of hits this trigger, the agent kicks in and it does some automated stuff, and it hits a spot where it needs human interaction. So Copilot reaches out to you. All of that is kind of like coming soon. It's not here yet. Where we are with agents now is that we can do fine training and understanding with injecting knowledge, We can do natural language building of an agent. So it's very easy to build these things. It's very easy to add like some links, some SharePoint sites, some specific documents, and say, this is your knowledge base. And then you're able to add some actions to it, like at some point in the conversation I want it to send an email to somebody, or like these kind of simple actions. The automatic agents, that's like really kind of getting more towards like the right hand side of this picture. But I really like this picture where it's like when you're starting out, you've kind of got these knowledge agents on the simple scale, which is like I've got a bunch of knowledge base articles and I want to create like a chat bot that's like really, really good at this knowledge. All the way down to the advanced stuff, which is like, hey, the agent has done a bunch of research and generated some leads. The agent noticed this anomaly and reached out and started doing some automatic actions. So you're going to be starting out on the left-hand side of this, right? And that's what I'm going to demo. But ultimately, like, we're all going to be experts in this, over the next year. And I'm really excited to see what kinds of insane things come out, probably by build. I imagine enough months will have passed by that there's going to be all kinds of just incredible, process automation that has happened. But the second like foot of this is with agents. Microsoft announced this agent builder, which is that very easy inside the product builder. So you'll be able to build agents from the BizChat. So like if you're inside Microsoft Teams and you're doing a Copilot chat, you'll be able to click the @ sign and create an agent with like a in-product builder. You'll also be able to create it within SharePoint. So if you go into like a document library and you've got a folder of stuff, you'll eventually be able to click like the dots and create an agent off of that. I don't have that yet, but I've seen it in some targeted release stuff. But today, what you can do is you can do it through that Copilot Studio interface. So to show this a little bit, I've got Copilot Studio up somewhere. There we go. This copilotstudio.microsoft.com. When you're in your homepage, you would think that you would go to like create and then you would like create a Copilot. That's not creating an agent. So the first pitfall is like, don't go and do it here. That's a whole Copilot. If you want it to be an agent that you can mention, go over here to Copilots and then Copilot for Microsoft 365. Now you've got agents. So maybe they'll change that, in the future. But today, Copilot Studio, Copilots, click on Copilot for M365, and then add an agent right there.
Yo,
So
I
we're
heard
going
you
to,
wanted Copilots in your Copilot for Copilot
right,
Microsoft 365 Copilot.
right. So the setup is I've got this data here. I've got Jolly Roger Java HR. And this is like I, generated a bunch of that stuff in Word. So here's like a bunch of policies, but also I've got like a marketing department's team, and the marketing department has specific ways of working, and they've got like their acronyms that they use inside the marketing department, right? And like some other information. So I want to create an agent that provides an onboarding buddy or an onboarding assistant for the marketing department at Jolly Roger Java. So that's my prompt here. I'm going to make this a little bit bigger. I want to make an agent that helps new hires onboard with Jolly Roger Java. So we do that, and it's going to come back and give and provide some probing questions for me about what do you want it to do, how do you want it to behave. So you see right here, it named my agent and it gave me like a description. It started creating some instructions for me. So the next thing that I want it to do is it says like, do you have some instructions like tone or something like that? Yeah, I want it to be very helpful. I want it to be like your HR buddy or your HR assistant that really wants you to be successful. It's going to answer questions. And I'm mentioning now that it's in the marketing department because I forgot that the first time. So we're going to fire that little prompt back into it. and we're going to see what changes about this builder in the background. So see, it's changed a little bit. Maintain a helpful tone. It's for the marketing department, so it's added a little bit of that. And it's asking me now, what topics shouldn't it talk about? So I'm going to say, like, don't speculate on things you aren't confident about. Don't make things up, because like we're talking policies here. We want you to be really accurate as well. So we're going to let that go. Like, understood, it'll avoid some other things. So avoid speculation, ensure that you're accurate, stuff like that. So it's basically done. So I'm going to go ahead and click configure here and see what it did. It created me a title. It gave me a little description. This is what like the people are going to see in the agent store, in the M365 store in your organization. Here's the custom instructions that it created based off of my language. And then it also gave me starter prompts. So I don't even have to come up with the prompts that I want in the starter bubbles. And now it's just basically waiting for like actions and knowledge. So because this is an internal chatbot, I don't want to use web browsing. So I don't want it to go out to the web and like, hallucinate and get stuff from the web. I want it to really only work off the data I give it. So I'm going to go ahead and give it 2 pieces of data here. So inside the shared documents, I'm going to highlight that link. I'm going to add knowledge for SharePoint. I'm going to paste that in. And this is my HR policies, right? So I'm going to add that. And then I'm also going to I'm going to go to the shared documents here. I'm going to copy that. And I'm going to add the marketing department as well. So here's 2 different, so marketing team. I've got 2 different SharePoint sites that I'm going to like educate it on. And then we're done. I'm going to click create. So now it's setting up the agent and it's getting ready to kind of like make it available for me to start testing it out here. And it's loading. I'm going to show you next how we share and publish this agent, and then we'll go in and we'll start testing it out and playing with it a little bit. But you can see like it's pretty simple, and this is supposed to be like the hard way of doing it, right? It's going to be even easier when you can just go into SharePoint and be like, make an agent about this site. It's like going to be click, click, done. So it's created this thing, and it's got, let me zoom out a little bit. It's got like a little sidebar where I can test it out and kind of play with it a little bit. So like, what is some company holidays? And I've had it like mess up over here. Like the training data wasn't quite ready yet. And so like it came back with like, according to, the US holidays, and it like just made it up. Yeah, see, it's doing it here where it's like, I can't find a list of holidays. The list of holidays is there, so it's not quite working yet. But if I were to publish this, I can make this available by giving like a short description. It just has like a developer name. So I'm going to put like John Moore. If you had a website, privacy policy, terms of use, you could fill all of that information out, and then you could get it out. So you don't want to close this yet because it's actually publishing. At some point, it will say, hey, I'm finishing up. You can close this now. But we're going to just let it go all the way through, because after the publish is the sharing capabilities. Okay, so like now it's made it past that point, so I can close it if I want to, but I'm just going to leave it open. I don't think there's any comments on here, Andy. I don't see any up there. Cool. So let's watch paint dry for a little bit. And Andy, you said you haven't created any of these yet, right?
Not yet.
Okay. Yeah, I'm curious, people who watch this like later on, what ideas do you have? Is there a couple agents that you're looking for right away? Because I'm kind of looking for inspiration where I can try out other things. The onboarding, agent, that's pretty obvious. One thing I will do, let me bring up another window while this is loading. and I'm going to bring up my YouTube stuff. So I want to share something real quick, which is, where is this at? 2 weeks ago. So Lisa Crosby, a good friend of ours, she has created many tutorials on her channel, and she has actually created a Copilot Studio Essentials playlist. I'm going to pause that. And this is how do I like share this thing? I'm just going to copy it. So this thing though is each of these videos are less than 10 minutes long, and it's like how to create, how to add knowledge, how to like publish it, and all of that type of stuff. So I highly recommend. I watched these over on the airplane ride. Highly recommend you add that to your YouTube library so you can learn from the total pro on this, Lisa Crosby. So this is available now directly, and like I could, buddy, if I wanted to, I can share it to individual people by name or like using a security group if I wanted to. And then I also could share this with everybody in my organization. When I click yes, this is actually going to publish it for a Power Platform admin. Again, I'm not an admin in this sandbox, so somebody else has to approve it, and it says it's waiting for approval at this point. So I copied that to my clipboard. I'm just going to paste it in, and it's going to want to open up inside of Microsoft Teams. So my Teams app is opening on the side here right now. And it's going to open up like basically the store. Well, maybe not. Oh, I'm probably logged in with the wrong account. Let me use on the web instead. I've got too many profiles. There we go. So there's Jolly Roger Java onboarding assistant. It's by John Moore, my name, and then it's got that description, right? So I'm going to click add. And this is going to add it to Copilot chat, the biz chat, so we can use that in the course of conversation. So Jolly Roger Java has sent me a card. So it's there now, and it's there as a chat bot. So I could use it as like a standalone application. Or if I'm in Copilot biz chat right here, you can see all of these agents that I've installed. And Andy was the one that showed me these. He was like, dude, there's like pre-built agents already. So Microsoft has given us, what is it, like 5 or 6?
5 or 6, yeah.
Yeah, so Visual Creator, if you go into the store in Teams and the store in M365, search for the word coach, and you're going to see a bunch of agents from Microsoft. So there's like a prompt coach, which is helps you build good prompts, helps you learn new topics, generate ideas, get career advice, and write things. And you can pin these agents. So I've got the Jolly Roger Java onboarding assistant. I can, dude, I'm sorry. I'm busy. My 6-year-old just came in. Come here, dude. Come here. Come here. He's like, I need help. He came in wearing his Halloween costume. He came in dressed like a police officer, and he's like on the verge of crying. So the onboarding assistant, though, I can pin this, and it can ask me like what I want to do, but I can also invoke it in the course of a conversation. So the way you do that is with this @ sign right here. And if you click the @ sign, you can invoke the onboarding assistant and say like, what are the holidays for 2025, right? So this is the same thing I asked during the test and it didn't work. Hopefully it's going to work this time. There we go. So according to the corporate holidays in 2025, here's what they are, and it references that file from that SharePoint. So now we've got this, agent running, and I've basically added it to a conversation within Copilot Chat, Biz Chat. So that's kind of my quick demo of Copilot agents. There's obviously a lot more deep stuff that we can learn from like Lisa Crosby and them. But this is what I've done by just playing with it so far. So that's Copilot Agents. I don't have too much more about that one. Any thoughts on your side?
I've got so many ideas for Copilot agents, so many things
Yeah.
that I want to try. The thing is, I just need the Saved by the Bell Zach Morris timeout so that I can
Yeah.
freeze time and go and play with that stuff and really explore it.
Yeah, I
So
know.
I'm
Like, I want to get more ideas and start kind of playing with and doing like fake data to kind of see like what it's going to be good for. I'm still definitely on this end of the spectrum on the left hand side, but I know that people are going to be ready for the advanced side. I'm not ready for them yet, so
right.
it's on us to get ready for sure. So cool. Well, that is a pretty big overview of Wave 2 announcements. I think we've got some ideas of some future things that we want to talk about,
Yeah.
like agents, certainly like revisiting that, talking about like the brand manager. I think once we get Copilot Python in Excel, we could like actually live demo that. But I think, what would you say? It's probably like 50%, 70% rolled out. It feels like the Wave 2 stuff.
Yeah, probably like more. I mean, I'm guessing 75%.
Yeah. There's like some Excel stuff, some PowerPoint stuff. Yeah, see, there he is in his little police uniform. He's mad because he needs. Come here, dude. Come here. Let me help you. Let me help you. Stand over here. Yes, stand right here, so I can help you. He's mad because he's got this little like police belt, and the police belt he can't get it like latched, so he wants some help. Okay, is that good? How's that? What?
It's maybe going through the other strap.
Oh, it's okay. Here. There you go. Okay, go. It wasn't going through the other belt loop, so it was an urgent request. Um, they're home today because of like parent teacher conferences.
Same.
So, yeah. But what do we have coming up? So you're going to SharePoint Fest, right?
I am. And can you want to?
Do you have some?
Yeah.
There you go. Okay. So that's gonna
Totally.
be in Dallas.
Totally shameless plug. TechCon
Okay.
365,
Yeah.
formerly known as EduCon 365, formerly known as SP Fest, formerly known as SharePoint Fest. I'll be there November 11th through the 15th. I'm doing a full day workshop with my buddy Daniel Christian
Mhm.
on Copilot in Microsoft 365 and Power Platform. So that's going to be a cross platform story where we step through all of the different Copilot experiences and show you how you can use it at every part of your workflow to build something.
Mhm.
And in our case, we're going to be building an app in Power Apps with some Copilot Studio integration, some Power Automate integration, but we're also going to cover things like Outlook, Teams,
Mhm.
BizChat, Word, Excel, PowerPoint, Forms, and we're just going to show you how Copilot can interact or be used in every step of the process to streamline the workflow. I'm also doing a half-day workshop on real-world solutions built with Microsoft 365. That one's going to dive into how to leverage Teams and SharePoint and Viva Engage, and then some of the other apps to create
Mhm.
services, solutions that you can use to scale your resources. And then, because I'm a glutton for punishment, I've got four breakout sessions.
Holy cow, dude!
Copilot, OneDrive, Power Automate, and I can't even remember the other one. And I'm doing 2 Ask the Experts while I'm there, and 1 table talk on Copilot. So I'm going to have a crazy week. But if you're in
You're gonna be
Dallas,
everywhere, dude.
or if you want to come to Dallas, there's a promo code up there, Andy TX. Use that. Come hang out in Dallas, November 11th through the 15th. It's going to be a great conference. It's going to be a lot of fun. This will be my first time at the Dallas event because they
Mhm.
went there last year, but I wasn't able to go. But I'm typically at
Nice.
most of the TechCon 365 events, and it's a great conference. It's a little bit smaller conference, but it's a great conference because you get a
Mhm.
lot of time to engage with the audience, and the audience gets a lot of time to engage with the speakers that are there. So I'm really looking forward to that one.
That's awesome. I need to start getting involved with the tech con stuff. It's closer and closer to me, right? Like DC's far away, but like Dallas is getting there. It's in the
Yeah.
same time zone, you know? So
Yep.
that's really cool.
Yeah. So we
That's
got
awesome, dude. So yeah, use that code. You guys will get $100 off, and it's coming up here, what, in 2 weeks, right?
yeah, just a couple of weeks. There's still time to
Yeah.
sign up. You can still join in the fun and
hmm
participate.
So and then in 3 weeks is Microsoft Ignite, and that's my next thing. So I was fortunate enough to get invited to Microsoft Ignite this year. It's gonna be my first time back at Ignite in 5 years, I believe. So
Oh
like
wow.
right before COVID was my last one,
Yeah.
and then I've been online since. And my first time attending in person as an MVP, so I'm really excited about that. Get to meet a lot of my friends that I've made since the COVID times. But I'm going to be at Ignite all 3 days for the expert meetup. So if you are looking for some guidance or you just want to chit chat about some stuff, I'm going to be in the modern work area of the hub. So there's an expert meetup area within the hub, which is like the big expo hall area. Inside modern work, there's a booth for Copilot, and I'm fortunate enough to be one of the people manning the Copilot booth. I'm going to be there for 4 hours each day, so like 12 hours total in the booth. Um, so I'll put some stuff out on my LinkedIn profile as the specific time slots as that gets finalized. But come say hi, and we can chat about Copilot if you've got questions about Copilot, how it works, or what we've learned in the process of like rolling it out in large organizations. I now work for the organization that has the most Copilot licenses in the world. So some of these bigger rollouts, we've got some experience that we can share in that expert meetup booth. So really excited to see people in person. Um, cool. So I think that about does it this time, right, Andy? Anything else to add?
This is a lot. There's
It
a lot
was a
of cool
lot.
stuff.
Yeah.
So
Oh,
definitely some things to circle back on.
yeah. One more thing. When we see you guys next time, it will be after the presidential election. I just remembered I've got my sticker on. I voted today. Go vote. If you're in the United States, make sure that you're registered to vote. Go vote. Most places now in Missouri, we just got early voting without an excuse. So, like, anybody can go vote early now. I did it today. It took like 2 minutes. It was really fast. So, just a reminder, if you haven't heard 1,000 other times, go vote, and we will see you after the election. So be good times.
Absolutely.
Okay, guys. Cool. Well, thanks again for hanging out with us, and we'll see you on the next 365 deep dive. Say happy Halloween to Finn.
We'll see you in the next one.
Bye, guys.